Sorry, hang on, helps if I add the actual camera to the show like I normally do, doesn't it? Good evening, everybody, and how are we all doing today? It's Sunday, the 18th of August, 2024. What has happened this year? Every month just seems to have flown by. 18th of August. What is going on? Hope you're well, everybody. Hope you've had a good weekend. Hope you've been busy with your allotment. I've got to admit, I have really struggled this weekend with any. I just felt a bit lethargic. I think it's safe to say I did a few things, but I felt a bit lethargic. Anyway, let's see who we've got joining us over on Instagram. Allotment Cooks and Glastonbury Gabriel. How are you doing, guys? Lovely to see you. On the main, we've got Adrian saying hello to Richard and all. Good evening to you. Turbo Stream, good evening, Veg Podcasters. Been a lovely weekend for gardening. I'm glad it has been for you. As your mojo came back, that's the question I want to ask there. Stuart Jackson, evening, Richard and the Veg Army. Hope you all well enjoyed the sunshine this weekend. It has been good weather, hasn't it? Has been good. For the SBB, hi everyone, good evening to you. We have got Hargrave Gas. Evening all, I'm back, been to Spain, France, and all over the place. Missed my Sunday night fix, so pleased to be with you all again. We're pleased to see you again. And I was worried about where you might have gone. I thought you had abandoned us, but hope you had a good holiday nonetheless. Digwell, what's that? Gui and Alamein. Something like that. Good morning, everyone in the Africans. I could do with a phrase book sometimes to try and learn these beforehand. Good evening, gardeners, says Anna Jones. Good evening to you. Allotted Chef, aka Nathan. Evening all. Absolutely beautiful weather in Kent this weekend. Good for you. Good for you. Seed Table Plot 13. Good evening all. Good evening to Scott, that is. Hello all, says Nigel. Good evening to you. Idaho Garden Girl, time flies by. Hello, Richard and all. Indeed, time does fly by. And Richard Golden is there. Hello all. Good evening to you. Let's just have a quick check over on Instagram. Scott has joined in over on Instagram and then disappeared at the same time. So, today's topic for discussion. Let's get into it. Edible aquatics, or do you have a pond that you might grow edibles in? This is a question that came about because I did a project last weekend, which you probably heard about on the podcast, all to do with watercress. Now, I've always wanted a pond or a water feature in my garden. There's something about it that I just find quite appealing, but my wife sort of puts her foot down sometimes and says no to that for various reasons, mainly because the sound of water makes her want to go pee too much. But also my garden has always been about the edible. So everything in my garden has to be edible. So when I built this pond, I wanted it to be edible plants inside. And we achieved that with a few plants. But I want to find out from you, what edible plants have you grown, or what edible plants will you grow or would you use? Now, I think I'll start off with the example that I spoke of in Monday's podcast, which was the watercress. Now, watercress is probably quite an obvious one. We've all heard of it, I'm sure. It's delicious. I love the stuff. I see it growing in the little streams and rivers over in Hampshire when I go there for work, particularly in places like Winchester. I see it a lot in the streams. And I know Chili Kate actually works. I haven't seen her tonight yet, but I'm sure she will be here. Chili Kate works in a watercress factory. Is that the right word? I'm not sure. A watercress place. And I think it is a fantastic plant to grow. Now, it's not the easiest plant I've found to grow from seed. I've never actually had any luck growing it from seed, but instead I buy some watercress from a supermarket or a farmer's market, pot it in some water, and it roots itself. So that's how I've started off the watercress. But that's my start. Has anybody out there? I tell you what, let's start off with the first question I should ask you all. Who has a pond, or who would like a pond to grow edibles? Now, Turbo Extreme says, not much done at the allotment, mostly harvesting. That's good. That's good. That's what it's all about at the end of the day. But spent all weekend at home in my garden, making it a low maintenance woodland garden as it's too shady for growing veg. Or you need veg that can cope with shade, is all I would say on that. I should say, anybody watching in the Facebook group, I won't see your comments because of how Facebook works, but we are on the Facebook page. Kate Spratt says, good evening, Veg Army. Good evening to you. I always hope I pronounce your surname correctly because I always worry about getting people's surnames incorrect because it can be a bit rude, can't it? Turbo Extreme says, no pond, so that's me out this week. We'll listen with interest. But could you get a pond? Would you think about getting a pond in your woodland garden? I think it might work. And like I said, there's certain vegetables I think would grow quite well in it. Ian Meadow says, evening all. Good evening to you. Nigel says, why not get a small hydro setup? So no need for the pond then. Now, that is a good point, actually. Now, I do have a small 5-pod hydroponic setup in my kitchen. I've been growing basil in it. It's the Kent and I can't remember the name of it. And it is something that I did think we might go down this avenue of discussing tonight, hydroponics. But that is specialist equipment, which I think we will get into in a little bit later on. But yeah, hydroponics is definitely something I want to factor in to tonight's discussion. What else have we got? Toby Stream, I've picked loads of runner beans this week for the freezer this week. I guess my mojo has returned. Excellent. That's what I like to hear. It has been a hard year for everyone, so don't feel like it's been a tough one or an easy one for anyone else. Nicholas says, evening all, cutting back at hydrangea, eating blackberries, growing through it. Lovely, lovely. Don't you just love the taste of fresh blackberries? Highgrave Gas, I would like a pond. Might start with an old Belfast sink I have. You know what? That's a great place to start, I'll be honest with you. One of the reasons that I wanted a pond is, of course, they look good in a garden. They bring in much more wildlife and those natural predators than anything else, you know, frogs and things like that. Now, I did sink a plastic washing up bowl in underneath my Taberries and fill that up with water for frogs and things like that. And I checked on it today; it's actually still there and still full of water. But this one is that I've made this week is a large round pond. It does need sinking in the ground eventually, but it's a large round pond filled up with water. And I've used a solar-powered water fountain to move the water around, just so it's not stagnant water; it's moving around. And that's how I've done this, as you may have heard on the podcast. It seems to be working quite nicely. I've got to say, it's quite nice to go out in the garden and hear moving water. I have a pond, says Anna Jones. Fantastic. And Nicola says, I have a pond totally overgrown of lilies, 30 years grow. Fantastic, fantastic. No pond at home, but do have one at work, but it's more of a wildlife pond. I would love a small one. Hopefully, this might make you think about growing food in a small pond at home or even at work. I filled my koi pond in, paved it, put a gazebo on, now sat in there listening to the podcast. Oh, excellent, excellent. But that's the thing. I'm trying to, because I love fish, I love koi. I want to incorporate that into my edible gardening at the same time. And this is the point of tonight's show. Incorporating a standard pond that people might find in their garden and grow edibles in it. That's my kind of thing. Kate says I pronounced her surname correctly. Fantastic. I always panic about that. Pond on plot 1, just digging a pond on plot 2. Are you growing vegetables in it though, Digwell? So those that are growing a pond, are you growing any edibles in it, or would you think about growing edibles in it? And after tonight, I'm hoping more people are going to think about this. Digwell says, hydros are great. Been picking tomatoes for months now. I'll tell you a story a little bit later on about tomatoes. Turbo Stream, I spent this weekend clearing the patch where the old pond was. No plans to get a new pond anytime soon. Fair enough, fair enough. The only edible plant we have in our pond is water mint. We only grow it as an ornamental now. Watermint. That's a fantastic one I didn't even think of. Watermint. How well does that grow? Is it easy to propagate? Does it grow easily in your pond? Do the fish eat it? So watermint is one I'm going on this sort of list we're creating to start this discussion off. Got mint in my Belfast sink. Me too. Me too. It loves it, doesn't it? Absolutely loves it in a Belfast sink. Digwell says you may find that household plastics, washing up bowls, etc., are not UV stabilized, so they rot, crack, shatter, etc., very quickly. My one, it's underneath the tavy bush, to be fair, so it's not directly in the sun, but it has been out there a couple of years now, and it hasn't cracked or anything. The new one is actually designed to be a pond, so it should be okay. But yeah, it's something to think about, UV stabilization. But if it's the washing up bowl pond, for me is just it's stagnant water. It's just for nature ponds and stuff. But even then, I don't think, unless the water's moving and fresh, they're really going to come and enjoy it. My thought anyway. I do have a pond, but it must have a hole in it, so I'm going to reline before the winter. I would worry about stagnant water growing in it, though. So stagnant water is exactly why I got this solar-powered water fountain in mind, because I was worried about it too. And I didn't want the water to go stagnant. I figured the solar-powered water fountain, no electric cables I have to run, and it nice and cheap, basically. It worked out quite well. Nothing going on over on Instagram, but I've got to check on it. But yeah, it only cost me £10 for this solar-powered water pump. Seems to work quite well, even in shadier, cloudier days. It seems to work okay. But much better in full sun. Idaho says pond sounds great. However, hordes of mosquitoes already. I'm afraid a pond would become a mosquito breeding place. So you make a good point. Again, mosquitoes do tend to breed in water, but they prefer stagnant water and things like that, quite small amounts of water. What you could do to reduce the amount of water, or reduce the amount of mosquitoes, is actually fish in there, goldfish. They would eat the mosquito larvae, so you're less likely to get mosquitoes. That's a reason or something to think about with this. Jenny says, sorry I'm late, just been sorting the allotment pond with the kids. I got covered in green gunk, so I had to shower. I'm here now. Hope you're all well. So Jenny obviously has a pond. Is it got a fountain? Is it stagnant? Do you grow edibles in it, or is it just for nature? Nigel, Steve Digwell is doing exactly the same as Nigel, sat on the pond, on the old koi pond. I've got a feeling they're going to dig these up and we bring them back into use after tonight. Watercress is going into Jenny's pond. Also a rush that you can eat the roots as a potato. Also a rush that you can eat the roots as a potato replacement. Talking about watercress. Don't know on that. I've not heard that, but I can certainly believe it. Turbo Stream says, on Garner's Question Time years back, Bob Flowerdew suggested growing lettuce in polystyrene trays that were floating in a water pot. No idea if he was joking. No, he probably isn't joking. It definitely would work. It's a type of hydroponics, or a very simple way of hydroponics, just floating it on top of water. The risk, however, is if you're using water from your water butts, your trays can then drop down and then they'll end up with very little light. That is a risk. But it's definitely an option. It's definitely an option. Digwell says, water lilies mentioned already. Roots are edible and plants over 4 years. I did not know that. I did not know that. So water lilies are something we could grow in this pond that we are coming up with ideas. Water lilies was a good one. I never knew that. Anna Jones says watermint is very easy one to grow. Just pull a bit off and it will make a few new roots in a few days. Fantastic. Bit like watercress then. Does watermint taste like mint? Can you use it in the same way as mint? Is it more of a herb? Let us know. And where can I get some from? Nicholas says fish eat mozzies. Yep. Nigel says floating pontoons are common for growing salad crops. Yeah, absolutely they are. And Turbo Stream says he wasn't joking, talking about the Bob Flowerdew thing. Digwell says, I won't reinstate the koi pond. Too upset when 3.5 grand's worth of fish died due to lack of oxygen on a hot, thundery night. Gutted. Yeah, it is. That is the risk. This is why our ponds, the ponds we're talking about tonight, are completely edible. That's the main thing we're going to get out of them. Jenny says, I had 3 ponds between home and the allotment. They don't go stagnant if you have enough plants and balance of wildlife. Watercress is a great filter for water and it doesn't need moving water. So that's interesting because watercress, and when I see it growing in the streams, it does have water flowing all over it, and seems to be moving quite well. So, or seems to grow quite well in there. So that is interesting. I knew it filters water as well, but yeah, I think watercress is fantastic. I've seen hydroponics where where the fish poop adds nutrients you need to grow. That's aquaponics, I think. But yeah, you can have fish in one tank, then growing food in the other tank is the idea with that. It's a good idea if you've got the space and the know-how to do that. Let's have a quick check on Instagram. Octopod Kayaks have joined. Welcome along, guys. Hope you are well and doing fantastic. So yeah, so we've got watercress and water mint so far, and water lilies, I believe it was. 3 options already. Now I'm going to throw in another one that I have actually been growing for a number of years. It doesn't actually need to be growing in a pond. It can actually grow as long as it's kept incredibly moist. I've seen it in where was it? Wisley. That's the one. Actually growing in a bed, but it does need a lot of wet, moist soil. And that is wasabi. Absolutely delicious. Love wasabi. It's the roots that we eat, but it is delicious, but it does need a lot of water. Now, when I saw it growing in where was it? Wisley. I keep forgetting the name of the place. When I saw it growing in Wisley, they had it grown in a raised bed. It looked to be doing really, really well. And I sort of thought, okay, that'll be fine. And then when I watched Clarkson's farm, he happened to have it growing in one of his streams. And he claimed, obviously, he's not an expert at this, but he claimed that you could, that wasabi grows best in moving water, particularly fast moving streams and stuff. So that was interesting to find out, but I don't know how true is that is. But that's another one that I'm growing, watercress and wasabi so far. Digwell says the koi were edible but a bit fatty. Lack of muscle as they don't swim far. Yeah, koi, I mean, they're basically a carp, aren't they? And I know in many Eastern European countries, the carp would be what they eat for their what do you call it? Christmas dinner. So yeah, I mean, it's not. I don't think I could eat it myself, but we'll see what happens. Rob's Allotment Gardening says, "Good evening, all. Good evening to you. Hope you are well. Lovely to see you." Jenny says, "Dragonflies, bats, etc. eat mosquitoes. All pollinators and birds will use water, so they'll visit your pond. You water approximately 50-50 cover from plants and open wait. Ideally, not full sun all day." Yeah, all these options. Hello, Gal. Roxy just came in. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good reasons to have a pond on any plot for nature, but as I said, it's all about edible gardening at the same time. What have we got? Can you put a pond on your allotment? If yes, we need to meet up again. No, we're not allowed ponds on our allotment, which is really annoying because I don't know why they're not allowed. I guess they're worried about people falling into the pond. I mean, we're only allowed 2 water butts as well. So no, we're not allowed ponds on the allotment, but I'm going to try and see if we can negotiate something on that. Nigel says marsh marigolds can be cooked and eaten. Marsh marigolds, I've never heard of those. What do they taste like? Are they easy to grow? Have you grown them yourself? Jenny says there is a bulrush. You can eat the roots as a potato alternative. Don't forget many marginal plants that like boggy soil, like celery. I grew celery and rhubarb in the sides of my old pond. Well, celery is a coastal plant, so it does like a lot of wet. What more? Does like a lot and lot of water. As does, what was the other one I'm thinking of? Asparagus as well. That does like quite a bit of water. Free draining, but a lot of water. Nicholas says I use bubble stones in my trough and have 2 solar fountains. Is that to keep the mozzies out? There. Rob says thumbs up. And what have we got? Nigel, yes, big congrats to Digwell. I was saving that for later. I have marsh marigold growing in a bucket on my allotment. Lovely yellow flowers. Fantastic. I'd love. Oh, can you send me a photo of that at some point, Nigel? I'd love to see that. And sounds very interesting. I will have to again look at getting some marsh marigold to grow in my new pond as well. So, any more? Scott says, just looking on Google, sweet flag sounds interesting and similar to ginger. I've not heard of that one either. I've not heard of that one at all. But there's lots of options, isn't there? Actually, I mean, I've already lost count of how many things we could grow in a pond that are edible. So lots of options. Gary has joined. Good evening. Sorry I'm late. Lovely to see you as always, my friend. Hope you are well. Rob says we are not allowed ponds on our allotment due to health and safety, same as mine. But hey, we just make the most of it, don't we? I'm looking at getting one of the smaller ponds from the garden centre. That is an above ground one. I won £25 voucher from the Bearded Growers, so good for that. Yeah, very sorry to hear about the Bearded Growers. I don't know if anybody's heard about it, so I won't say any more just yet. But yeah, Bearded Growers, I'm pleased you won that. Digwell says probably more choice of edibles in the marginals, boggy area of a pond. You're probably right, but this is what we want to investigate and find out a bit more about tonight. So what's going on? Oh, speaking of the Bearded Growers are over on Instagram. He said it's JJ. Sorry, I'm late, JJ. Watercress. Lovely to see you guys. Hope you are well. Also joining over there. Ruth Scheller has joined and Helen's Chef has joined. Welcome along. Lovely to see you. Please feel free to add in the conversation. Bearded Growers also says, don't worry, we will return. So lots of interesting things going on there. But for those that don't know, I'll explain. The Bearded Growers, as you know, the radio show is no more, hopefully temporarily. And so that's what I was alluding to earlier. I didn't want to confuse anyone. Anyway, we're talking about edibles in a pond tonight. Kate, I'm still waiting for my voucher. I already planned what I am buying. It'll be with you soon. It should be with you very, very soon. Right. Let's carry on. So any other options? Just quickly, Jenny says, hello, Bearded Growers. Hope you are both well. Any other things that you might grow in a pond? One of the things that I'm thinking of is water chestnuts, and that's probably a more marginal thing again. Has anybody ever grown it? Would you think of growing it? Or would it be something you could grow in your pond? For me, again, it just seems like a good option of something that is aquatic but edible and could grow nicely and provide us with plenty of food. I know water chestnuts grow quite often over in China, if I'm not mistaken, and there's lots of ways that lots of different ways of growing it. But I think it can be a bit invasive. But if we're harvesting it for food, it can become less invasive. Keep an eye. Yeah, the Bearded Growers say they need to hibernate, not a worry. And Nigel's texted a picture of his marsh marigold. So let me just bring that up. There we go. So that's what the marsh marigolds, okay, if you can see it, looks like. What stunning thing is that? And that's in a bucket, just a bucket of water in there. That looks absolutely fantastic. I think we definitely need to hear more about that. We've got quite a few options, haven't we? So watercress, water mint, water lilies after 4 years old can be edible. What else did we say? Just going to go through what other things we've saw. Bulrush is a marsh marigolds, of course. Where was there? Water mint, water lilies. I think there was. I'm sure there was more. Jenny says we have to cover a pond for safety. I'm going to use a 6-foot iron garden gate. Basically, we'll do the same as the pond. Great, but free. Excellent. So I tell you what, let's go to one of the videos now. Anna Jones says water chestnuts need a warmer climate than ours. I think. I don't know on that. This is what I'm asking the question. Wasabi was one of the others, wasn't it? Water chestnuts need a warmer climate. I don't know. This is why I'm asking the question. Has anybody ever grown it? It's only when I was looking into this sort of subject it came up. So it may need a warmer climate. Could it grow on the south coast? I don't know. Lots of thoughts on that. Right, I was going to go to a video quickly. So, should we do this week's cook along? Because we're not doing a sew along this week. It's the cook along, and it's a vegetable curry. So let's go to that, shall we? Instead of a sew along this week, we've got a cook along, and it was a vegetable curry you wanted me to cook. Started by gathering the ingredients, as you can see in this picture here. First thing I wanted to cook was the cauliflower, which I chopped up and then put into a pan of hot water. Brought it to the boil and cooked until the cauliflower was tender, at which point we drained the cauliflower. While the cauliflower was cooking, I chopped all the other vegetables, the onions, the carrot, the potato, everything that we had that we were going to use. Once the cauliflower was cooked, I then sweated down one large onion, which I'd chopped up, of course. Once that was sweated down nice and soft, I added a tablespoon of curry paste. Any curry paste would do. I chose a medium curry paste because, well, my wife can't handle the hot food anymore. Once that was all mixed together, I added in some vegetable stock and some tomatoes. Now, the recipe actually called for canned tomatoes, but I prefer to use fresh tomatoes where I can. I left the skin on because I actually believe that holds in much more nutrients and it improves the flavour, leaving the skin on. I just brought this up to a boil. The skin then does come off quite easily, and the tomatoes are quite soft at this point. Once the tomatoes were nice and soft, I then added the rest of the vegetables. So this is 2 large potatoes that I've chopped up, a carrot that I've also chopped up. I've added a chilli as well, and of course the cauliflower earlier mentioned. All that went into the same pan. Had to add a little bit of water just to bring the water level up to cover everything. I brought it to a boil and then cooked it on a simmer for about 20 minutes until all the vegetables were nice and soft. Now, I like to leave a curry overnight to marinate, so I left this on the side overnight to marinate, and when we go back to the studio we're going to find out just how well this turned out. So there we go, that was how we made it, and this is our curry, our vegetable curry. I should put that on. Is it this one? That one. Yeah, that one. Once all the equipment is in the way. That's what it looks like. So, what does it taste like? Vegetable curry. I think this was Nigel's suggestion for vegetable curry. You know, I said I'd leave the skin on. That's a bit of a skin. It just peels off anyway, but I like to leave the skin on the tomatoes because I think it just tastes better, holds on to the nutrients rather than pre-cooking it just to take the skin off. Anyway. Lovely. Lovely. The potato and the cauliflower really absorbed that curry flavour. The carrots, not so much, but a good way of using up a lot of vegetables if you have them. Good way of just using up vegetables, turn it into a lovely curry like that. It was a nice, easy one, that one. I found the recipe on BBC, an easy vegetable curry. So very, very, very pleased with that. What do you guys think? Was that a good one? And was that a thumbs up? At that point, I just remind you all to give us a thumbs up, a like, a follow, subscribe. Don't forget to click the notification so you know when we go live. I really should say to click the thumbs up earlier on to get the algorithms working, get more people finding the show. Because if we thumbs up earlier on, YouTube pushes it more. I don't like doing that though, because I think, how do you know you're going to like it until we get into the show a bit more? Nigel says wild garlic or ransoms are also good as a pond marginal. They are so invasive. Well, it's tri-cornered leek we have growing here, but it's very invasive, very invasive. But yeah, they do like a moist, damp environment as well. Wasabi grown in the UK. Yep, that's another one we've added to the list. Gary says, would a pond in a greenhouse be warm enough for water chestnuts? I don't know. I would be worried, however, about the humidity in a greenhouse with a pond, though. That would be my only, my only concern. It'd be one worth trying, though. Is that a turd on the top left of the pic? No, that's curry paste. That was curry paste. Digwell says 2 types of water chestnuts, Elocharis adulcius and Tapas natans. First one, deep water up to 15 foot deep. Second one, 4 inches deep. There is a third, but not popular, as is very starchy. You've got to research it, haven't you? But a 4-inch one, that could work, couldn't it? That could realistically work. What do you reckon, Scott? Are you worried of being made redundant? No, I've been creating things for Scott, actually. I've been creating things for Scott. Is this a good time to show you what I've created for Scott? Probably is. I'm going to have to go quiet because I think this is background. I've created 2 intro music for Scott.
Chopping all the veggies, sizzle in the air. Chef Scott with the magic, smells are everywhere. Water starts to boil, onions hit the pan. Recipe of the week, let the feast begin. Cooking with Chef Scott, flavors come alive. Tune in every week for a tasty bite.
So that's number 1. The second one I've made is this one.
Chopping all the veggies, sizzle in the air. Chef Scott with the magic, smells are everywhere. Water starts to boil, onions in the pan. Recipe of the week, let the feast begin. Cooking with Chef Scott, great flavors come alive. Tune in every week for a tasty bite.
So there we go. 2 songs for Chef Scott on the jingle for the podcast. Which one do you prefer? Which one do you? Oh, it's still going, isn't it? There we go. Which one would you prefer? Which one do you prefer? I like it. Well, let's have a look. What is it? Stu's giving us a thumbs up. Jenny says definitely a thumbs up. Looks delicious. It really is nice, actually. I quite like it. I probably wouldn't add the carrot again, though. A nice Ruby Murray, indeed. Digwell says, I always dislike first until the show improves, then as it proceeds, then like it later. Actually, if you give it a thumbs down, I don't really care either, because it's all interaction as far as YouTube is concerned, isn't it? You can like or dislike as much as you like. I'm just scrolling the job ads now. Created with Suno. No, it was something else I used. Saying I want to talk about next week, funny enough, but yeah. I grew the Trapper Nattons many moons ago. Poor harvest, so chucked it out. Easier to open a tin can. Okay, so it's not very productive, but is it worth it? Is it worth it? I get a jingle. I'm staying, says Scott. Over on Instagram, a view from a Lakers joined and says hello to you. Welcome along. Hope you are well. Where were we? Rob says number 2. Kate says second. Hargrave says the first one gets my vote. Happier and more upbeat. Well, they are amazing, both great, but the first one gets my vote. Number 2 for Scott's music. I could actually alternate it each week, to be honest, because I'm struggling to decide between the two. Either way, I think they're good. It was actually an AI thing, and next week I want to talk about AI and gardening and how AI might help us with gardening. But that's next week. That's a topic for next week. What we want to, by the way, that was the cook up of the week in place of the sew along. Do you want to do a cook along or a sew along next week? And what would you want me to do? Up to you. But let's move this conversation as we go. Have one as an intro and one as an outro. It could work, but then they're about a minute long each, which is longer than my intro music for me. Yeah, that could work. That could work. It's hard, isn't it, with music? Anyway, moving this conversation about growing edibles in a pond. We've already touched on hydroponics. This is something that I've dabbled with in the past. I quite like the idea of hydroponics. I do have, or have been growing basil in my 5-pod hydroponic growing system down in the kitchen. Although we did get an infestation of some sort of bugs, which caused a bit of a problem. But who here is growing in hydroponics or hydroponically? And how big a system do you have if you are? Or would you think about growing as a hydroponic system? Nigel says 15 seconds max or attention spans drift. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And Digwell says both too long, in my opinion. An intro should be short and snappy. Yes, I can play around with a few things to make it a little bit better, a little bit more suited. I'm with you, though. I think intro musics need to be short, especially this day and age. It's not like the old days when TV programs had the intro and it was a minute or two. I'm with you. 15 seconds is what we need. 15 seconds. Anyway, back to hydroponics. Who here has a hydroponic growing system and how successful has it been for you? As I said, I've got my hydroponic, the 5-pod Kent and West, I think is the manufacturer, which I got from Garner's World Spring Fair. Really good setup, easy to set up, comes with everything you need. I sowed some basil into it. The basil grew huge, produced a lot of basil, and then these bugs came along and it kind of caused a bit of an issue. But we dealt with that, and I'm looking at what I could grow in it next. But hydroponics is, again, it's growing in water. Now, if you don't know, I'm sure most of you have heard about hydroponics, but if you haven't, the idea is that you grow your plants in a soilless environment, basically a nutrient-rich water system that pumps water around, and it's full of nutrients, so the plants grow nice and healthy and get everything that they need. I've got to say, it works very, very well. And there's a lot of people who are really raving about it, especially those who are trying to grow in tight spaces. I think the flavor of the food can taste a little bit watered down is the only drawback, but there's definitely something in it. Scott says, I got my father-in-law a small hydroponics kit because he loves watercress and he grows a fair bit of it now successfully. See, watercress is great. I mean, hydroponics, I think, might be a bit overkill for it, but I didn't actually think of growing watercress in it, but good idea, good suggestion. Actually, I might give that a try myself. Um, what what else have we got? Kate says, I've got hydroponics set up and it's brilliant. The ones I started in there were the best and strongest plants. So I saw a few people doing this last year, using the hydroponics to start seeds off. So be your tomatoes, your chilies, you just got them growing in hydroponics, and then once the roots were big enough or the plants were big enough, you put them into soil, as I understood it. And but it worked, did it? It worked very well for that. What were you growing in yours? What was really successful? And would you say it grew anything better than growing in the soil or in compost? Um, is there any real advantage to growing hydroponically, as we're going to call it? Nicholas says, I like this idea with fish in the bottom tank and then circulating the water. That's aquaponics. And what you can do with aquaponics. Now, I'm given a very simple version because I've not really done it myself, but you could use a couple of large IBCs and pump water between the two. And you would have the fish in one IBC. Tilapia seems to be quite a well-known type of fish to grow in it because it's an edible fish, so you get edible fish out of it. And then you grow vegetables in the top, floating on polystyrene usually, but you pump the water between the two. See the fish poop and loads of nutrients get added to that water, and the plants seem to love it. I think it's good for pest control as well. I remember seeing Kate's picture of her starting her plants off with hydroponics and thought it was a great idea. Again, I'm with you. I thought it was a great idea. I think Digwell also did a similar thing, if I'm not mistaken. Well, there was quite a few who used it in that same way. Nicholas says, I also like these towers, but I think they are better in warmer climates. These towers, what towers are they? The hydroponic towers you're talking about there. I've seen those over in Brighton, but yeah. Kate says the beams I started off grew really fast, a bit too fast, but the brassicas grew much stronger compared to the soil started ones. Interesting. Very, very interesting. I've lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. Nicholas says yes, Richard, to the aquaponics. So I don't know. Hydro roots and roots in soil are different types. Yes, I thought that as well. But when I've been, like, as I said, Kate is an example of people who started off in hydroponics and then it grew incredibly well when they transplanted them into soil. So I thought that as well, but it seems to have worked. Did Digwell, did you do that as well, if I'm not mistaken? Jenny says hydroponics has never really appealed to me. But I don't like grow lights, unnatural feed, nutrients, etc. Nothing against them, just not for me. And that's fine. That's fine. You may not be for it, and this is the great thing that we do here is explore all these different options. So may not be for you, but I a lot of people are turning to hydroponics, especially for those who don't have much growing space, because you can pack in a lot more plants into a smaller area. There's no weeding as well, of course, because, well, weeds just won't grow. So there's a lot of advantages of hydroponics. I've not, apart from this system I've got now, I've not really done much with it. I did have another one in the past, but I've never really got on with them. I don't know why. I don't know why I never really got on with them. I think the trouble I had with them in the past was remembering to switch on the lights every morning, turn them off at night, and various things like that. Found them noisy. I found them to be use electricity, which is something I don't really like to do. But I'm going to admit this modern version. My nose is really itchy. Sorry. The modern version is working out quite well. And Rob says a lot the big tomato farmers are using hydroponics. I think strawberry growers are using hydroponics more and more as well. There's definitely something in it because more and more people are using it, and it seems to be a popular way of gardening, of growing a lot more food. And farmers are using it because it is pretty time or saves a lot of time. But I've always worried about the flavour. That's the thing I feel lets them down slightly. I've rooted tomato shoots in water, then potted into soil. Apparently, the roots change character to adapt to getting nutrients from the soil. There we go. So I've learned something there. I always, I mean, I'm basing it off you guys because I never had a hydroponic system. I always worried that the change would cause significant problems to the plant. So watching what you guys have been doing, we've started off in hydroponics and then plotted up to into compost, has actually been quite interesting to see how how it changes. Seed to table, Scott says you can get hydroponics for professional kitchens. Very expensive, but I can see the appeal for them. Fresh herbs on demand, etc., within the kitchen area. Yes, they're almost like a big fridge, aren't they? The hydroponics, or even for like microgreens and stuff like that. It's like a big size of a upright fridge. And they've got a lot of food growing in that with grow lights and everything, so that the chef can just harvest it right there. Personally, I still prefer a good old kitchen garden in a restaurant or a hotel. I still prefer that. I love a good kitchen garden though. Nicholas says, I've seen strawberries grown on the side of shed in drain pipes. All have water pea, or and have water. Yeah, yeah. I've seen the drain pipes as well with and have water pumped in. Sorry, there. Sorry. Yes, yeah. Again, it works great, doesn't it? There's a lot of good ideas going on there. Benno says, pot lettuce in my hydroponics at present. Started 8 days ago when I pot the beetroot in the veggie pot. So you've also got a hydroponic system as well. Interesting, Benno. I didn't actually know you had that. Um, very interesting, to say the least. Turbo, I'm happy with my grow lights. I don't have a greenhouse, so no real way to rise seedlings at home. My plastic grow house to harden things off seems to attract slugs, even 4 foot off the ground. Yeah, it's probably a damp environment that slugs like, and that's one of the risks. But yeah, I do use grow lights. They're in my kitchen at the moment. We're hoping over winter to get a new shed built for starting seeds off because my wife isn't happy with all the plants in the kitchen. Yes, that's the one. It looks like a big fridge with glass doors. Yeah, seen it for growing in kitchens. Actually, there. Um, Also, it's natural feed, or is it natural feed or just synthetic feeds? I don't know on that. I would think it's a synthetic because it's got to work with the water, but that's not to say there's not natural feeds that can be used in the same way. But that's a good question. Hydroponics, do they use natural feeds or hydroponic feeds? Most seedlings get eaten if they go outside. That's always a risk. Um, Richard, message you some pics. I saw my phone going off and I saw it was you. I was going to have a look at them in just a moment. Rebecca has joined. Good evening. Sorry I'm late. Work commitments took over. No worries. Hope you are well. We've been talking about growing edibles in a pond, but we're also now moving on to hydroponics and growing in that. Do you do anything like that? How's your allotment going as well? How's your new allotment? I've been meaning to ask for a bit of a catch up. So, as I said, Steve has sent me some photos. Let's see if we can have a look at them. So that's one photo. Is that hydroponic tower there, Steve? The hydroponic tower. It looks great though, doesn't it? How does that work? What else have we got? And another one. Another picture there. Strawberries looks in a hydroponic system. Looks fantastic. I've got to say, it looks brilliant. Oh, there's more. Hang on, I can't seem to bring this picture up. I can't bring this picture up for. Oh, there we go. Tomatoes in hydroponics as well. They look fantastic, don't they? Growing nice and big. Is that a hydroponic system there? Only asking because it looks something a little bit different. Looks almost like an auto pot. So tell us more. It's way cheaper to burn a few LEDs than buy an expensive greenhouse. I fare better direct sowing on the allotment as there seems to be less slugs down there. I'm with you on that. LEDs are so cheap to run now these days, and the lights are getting cheaper and cheaper as well. So there's a lot of good reasons behind it. Hydros tend to be more chemical than organic due to the smell. There we go. That answers that question. Have a quick check. Nikki J. Cole and Laylex Sabel. Is that Layla? Laylex Sabel. Is that the Layla I'm thinking it is? Over on Instagram. Anyway, yeah. That's always a risk. The smell from the organic feed. My grow lights were under my bed last year. Did sweet peppers and chilies under the bed. Oh, that's fantastic. Got to use whatever space you have. Allotment's going well, says Rebecca. I shall send some updated pictures though over the next few weeks. Fantastic. Look forward to seeing that. Always keen to see what's going on. Now that sounds interesting. The grow lights under the bed. It does sound very interesting. Water feed pumped from the base to a spray at the top of the tower. Wow. Yeah. Fantastic. I'd love to see a video on that at some point, Digger, if possible. Autopot quad grower hydroponic, grown clay balls, no soil or compost. Oh, fantastic. Now I mentioned Autopot for a very good reason. I actually took a trip up to Autopot's headquarters and their R&D department, and I bring this in because I mentioned tomatoes and the story about tomatoes the other one. So yeah, I went to Autopot's headquarters on Friday. That podcast will be coming out in a few weeks' time about this. Their R&D department, absolutely amazing. Basically a greenhouse on top of their factory, temperature controlled, humidity controlled. Excuse me. They use a lot of natural predators in that area, but at the same time we got to it was like going into a surgery, but the way you have to enter this place with shoe protectors and stuff like that on as well. Really interesting. And there was a lot of plants, bananas and other plants that you wouldn't expect to grow in the UK that were in there. But the tomatoes, there was Sungold variety they had growing in there. They sowed the seeds on the 11th of August last year, and they were still growing and still producing tomatoes. These tomatoes were about 30 foot long, the vine. So a bit like what you would expect tomatoes in a natural environment, but they were amazing. I've got to say, really quite interesting to see what they were doing there. Turbo Stream says, my grow lights have a built-in timer, 12 hours, 6 hours, and 3 hours set and forget. Yes, I've done that with some of my timers and grow lights and stuff. My Kent and West hydroponic system was a bit awkward to work out because it has a timer for the lights, but it starts when you turn it on. So if you turn it on at 8 o'clock in the morning, it turns off at something like midnight, which didn't please the wife at all. I had to get up I had to get up at like 6:30 in the morning to turn it on to get the timing right for when we sort of go to bed. But otherwise, it was good for that. Do you use clay balls in your quad grow, Digwell? Is what Rob is asking. Let's have a quick look. Nothing going on over there. Nicholas says, don't have heating, so only heat rises up through the house from windows, and a dehumidifier that I use to dry my washing. Take moisture out of the air, gives off heat, so only room that has warmth. Is that talking about your bedroom there? Sorry. And everything growing under the bed. Rob says garden clay boil coir mix about 60-40. I fitted a solar drip feed too. Fantastic. Yeah, great idea. Again, love to see more on this, Digwell. Love to see. Richard, why not use a digital timer on the plug? So that's fine on the Kent and Stowe ones, but even then, if there's a power cut or anything, you have to turn it back on manually. My old one, again, I tried fitting a timer, but when it lost power, the power, the light button kicked out, so it didn't come back on automatically. You had to actually physically turn it back on. Really, really annoying. Really annoying. But that was the changes that needed to be made. Where was my old one? I got it from a garden centre about 10 years ago. I used to have it in here at one point, but as I said, it's just a fact you have to turn on and off. I tried fitting a timer because that makes life easy, doesn't it? And I say it. I know turning on and off things isn't too much of a problem, unless you suddenly have to leave for work at 4 o'clock in the morning or something, or you forget to turn it on one morning, and then your plants die because they've not got any light. That's why I've always been very much, I want a timer just to take things out. Digwell says I'll video that too. Fantastic. I look forward to seeing that. Let's see anything going on Instagram. Not just yet, but we're coming up to 7 o'clock, so I think it's time we go to another video, and it is the challenge of the week. So let's have a look and see what we're doing. Okay, so this week you challenged me to build a new bed and fill it up with compost, and I had actually built this new bed anyway. So this bed is 1.5 meters long, 80 centimeters wide, and I've gone for the usual stuff that I use, which is this good thick wood. This is 45 centimeter, 45 mil, 4.5 centimeters thick, and I use that because it will last quite a long time before it thoroughly rots through. I don't like treating wood because I don't want the chemicals leaching into my soil, so I've gone for untreated thick wood. It should take quite a while before it rots out. It will rot out eventually, but it should take a while. It also means that being thick wood, it can take a battering, it can last quite a long time, and I can also use it to sit on the edge when I feel the need to. But what we want to do today is fill this up with compost. Now, what I've been doing throughout this year is whenever I have pricked out any seedlings or potted up any plants and I've had some compost that left over, or plants that have died in the pot as well, so my plants that got killed off by whitefly or slugs and snails, are young plants, whenever that happened, I poured all that residue compost into a big dustbin. The idea being I didn't want it to contaminate anything. There's still possibly seeds and things in it, but I put it in there so it didn't go to waste. And what we're going to do is fill this up. I've put cardboard down, I should say that. I've put cardboard down on the bottom, but we're going to fill this up using that compost, and hopefully that's all we're going to need. As you can see, Roxy likes the compost, but you can also see that that compost has not gone anywhere near far enough. That dustbin was been pretty much entirely full of all this compost. Really hasn't gone very far. So we're going to have to use some of our man or homemade compost instead. Well, I would say that was about 4 wheelbarrow loads of compost to get this bed filled up. Got a feeling it may well need a top up as well, but what I'm going to do is plant it up with some rhubarb. Now, this is actually rhubarb I've grown from seed over the last couple of years. This one here, this variety is Champagne. This was sown back in January as part of our supporters club. But this one here was sown from seed last year. This is Glaskins Perpetual. And again, last January, supporters club seed. Been growing very, very well, I've got to say. It's time to get this into the ground. As I say, I think these will need a bit of a top up, but we'll see how it goes. There we go, over to you. Is that mission accomplished or mission failed? Indeed, is that mission accomplished or mission failed? Build a new bed and fill it up with compost. As you can see, not a huge bed, that one, but 4 wheelbarrow loads of compost to even get it anywhere near full. And I think we could probably do with another wheelbarrow load. Just goes to show, as we were talking last week, how much compost we actually need and anything. Right, let's come back to the comments. Where were we? Rob says, I now use digital timers on everything in the attic after watching Nigel Muddy Boots allotment. Yeah, I mean, I love digital timers. I just think it takes that. I use Alexa powered ones, actually, smart plug switches and stuff, and I set routines up and things. But I think they're brilliant. It just saves that hassle of if you ever forget to do something, doesn't it? Use a smart plug, switch on and off with your phone. Are you talking about my my hydroponic system was talking about earlier? It would, unfortunately, on that particular one, it wouldn't work. As I said, the switch stays in when there's power. So if you turn it, plug it in, power, turn it on, it'll work. But if you take it out, it's got like I can't think what the word is, a relay or something. When you take the power out, it drops that switch out. So even when you reconnect the power, it will remain off. You have to physically turn it on for it to be powered on. That was the trouble with that. Really annoying. I have timers all over my house for lights, etc. So much easier. I would forget to manually turn on grow lights. I agree. I'm so with you on that, because that's what timers are there for, really. Not only that, they don't use much electricity, and it's one less thing to think about, isn't it? I use Tapo plugs. I think that's the same as what I use, actually. Alexa powered. They're great, providing your Wi-Fi doesn't drop out or something. Mission accomplished, says Rob. Anna says, mission accomplished. Thank you so much. And Stuart says, yes, the rhubarb seeds have been amazing. Can't wait to show the children at school how good the supporters club is for seeds you would not normally buy. As always, a great club to join. Thank you so much. Yes, Stuart has got his school to join up to my supporters club seeds. So fantastic. Nothing going on Instagram. Digwell says, stop saying Alexa on the show. Just said, sorry, I don't know that. Sorry. I've changed mine to something else for that very reason. But yeah. I could say something, couldn't I, actually? Oh, yeah, I know what I could say. Alexa, play the Veg Grower podcast. How many people has just gone off? Let us know. So that was mission accomplished. I think it just goes to show just how much compost we need in these beds. Right, let's come back to this pond and this discussion we're having about hydroponics as well. One thing that I'm surprised didn't get mentioned. Nigel says, Richard has changed his to Amanda. Yeah. Don't tell her that, though. Because I'll get very told off. Turbo Stream says, turn on Steve's lights. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm glad I'm not the only one who huffs and puffs when digging compost. I huff and puff all the time. It's because I can't breathe through my nose through kickboxing injuries and things like that. Jenny's started playing the podcast. Excellent, excellent. I'm going to have to do that every week. My simple LED grow lights pushed to select 3, 6, 12 hours worked well. Yeah, as I say, my original ones, not the newer ones, you had to manually turn them on, which is really annoying. Kate says, when I ask Alexa to play the Veg Grower podcast, it plays all sort of random things. Takes 3 goes normally. It does have that problem, doesn't it? I mean, I normally can get it quite easily, but quite often I ask it, and it seems to come up with a lot of random things. Mine didn't, as mine is Echo. Yeah, I can't. Mine is that girl's name. I won't go into it. I won't say it again because I changed my Alexa wake up word to computer. Changed it back after binge watching Star Wars Trek Voyager. Echo Dot was going mad. Yes, yes. That's the exact trouble I've had. I put mine to that word as well, and I've just gone through TNG again, and yeah, goes mad, doesn't it? It does mad. Anyway, we're going back to the hydroponics watering question. One thing that I was surprised that we didn't bring up was blueberries, and this is a bit of a thing I've known about for a few years. There's a lot of people that believe blueberries need their roots absolutely soaked in water, and to the point that they are saturated. Now, blueberries do need a lot of water, but it needs to be free draining compost at the same time. I would say it's not even a bog plant. It does need a lot of water, but free draining. Otherwise, the roots rot. Now, this misconception comes from how blueberries are farmed in the big farms. What they'll do when the blueberries are, or they believe the blueberries are ripe, is they will actually flood the fields that the blueberries grow in, and all the blueberries will then float in the water off the tree, off the bushes, and then the farmer will go along with a what do you call it, a net to pick all the blueberries up, and then they'll open up another valve, and all that water will drain away. Blueberries do need a lot of water, but they're not necessarily a bog plant. They're more of a moisture-loving, free draining plant. If anybody has tried to water their blueberries to that point, you find that they will die off because the roots will just rot off, and it's not great. Turbo Stream says, "Oh yes, blueberries. Last year I put my plot on a shallow tray to hold water in. Forgot this year. Note to self next year." Yeah, they do need moisture retentive soil. Moisture retentive. But they need free draining soil. Interesting about blueberries, yeah. I don't know if anybody remembers, cranberries are the same. There was an advert with the farmers in what do they call them? Waders, and that's how they harvest them on mass scale, of course. What about samphire? Sorry about the spelling. Oh, marsh samphire. Marsh samphire. That's a good one, and we hadn't actually thought about that. That needs brackish water. It needs salt water. It actually grows just down by the river here, funny enough, in the wild. Marsh samphire. It's a interesting vegetable. Not everybody likes it. It's quite a salty flavour. But could we grow it at home? I guess we could, but you would need to use salt water in order to grow it. I like it. Not everybody likes it, but I like it, and it does grow. As I say, it grows locally, so I don't need to grow it here. But that's an option. That is an option. Does everybody know what we're talking about when we talk about samphire or marsh samphire? Bok choy, basil, and spinach for the hydro. That could work. I mean, I've done the basil. the spinach, I could give it a try, and the bok choy, I'll give it a try as well. The basil grew really, really well. It's just the bugs that came along, and they left like loads of little black. I want to call it poop, but I'm not sure what it was. But they were everywhere over my hydroponic system, and I had to get rid of the basil in the end to get rid of those bugs. I'm not sure what they were. I've just ordered, actually, interestingly, I've just ordered some nematodes for scarab flies because I'm getting a lot of scarab flies or fruit flies in my kitchen at the moment. And I think it's coming from my compost. Massive problem, massive problem. I think the green waste compost nowadays is worse for scarab flies as well. I mean, that's another discussion, isn't it? Another discussion for another time, or something that keeps popping up. Right. What are we? Do you want to have a look at your photos? There's not many this week, actually, but yeah, let's have a look at your photos. I think we'll see what we've got. So first of all, Nathan has got some olives ripening on his tree. This is amazing. A lot of things have not done great in this year, but what has done well has been amazing. I mean, to think olives. First year I got my olive tree, we got I'll get olives from it, but we haven't since. I've just recently been given some olive fertilizer. Actually, I'm going to give that a try. Next, we've got Steve Digwell. I want to give him a round of applause for this. First prize for this tomatoes, but also best in show, I believe. So, everyone, put your hands together, and give Digwell a big round of applause for that. Anybody else taking any part in anything like this? Let us know how you get on. Now, Stuart has been bargain hunting as always. He loves to save money, doesn't he? And he's found these. Are they plastic? I assume they are. They're normally something like £30. They were down to £3 in a garden centre. I think it was Hillier garden centres, which there's a few about. But at the moment is the time to go to garden centre to find some bargains, because this is the time when they start selling them off. They've really got Christmas present stuff in already. Scott is enjoying his sweet corn, as you can see here. Those loads of sweet corn. Looks delicious. He's obviously cooked these with butter and herbs. Looks absolutely fantastic. Now, Anne, over in Canada, these are the squashes she has growing in her garden. It looks fantastic, I've got to say. There's quite a few photos she sent with us last week, but the squashes on this sort of tripod system was something I really, really liked. So that's all the photos we've got this week. Please do keep sharing your photos, though. We post them in our Facebook group. You can send to me via social media or email me, richard@veggroundpodcast.co.uk. richard@veggroundpodcast.co.uk. That's the photos for the week. Photos for the week. Where were we? Turbo Stream says, not much salt marshes in landlocked Birmingham, so explain samphire, please. So samphire it's found in brackish waters. It's like I can't really describe it. It's quite a unique plant. It's like how would I describe it? I think the easiest way is actually going to be to show you. So let's see if I can find a picture of it. To show you. We want to see it. Here we go. So let's share this screen with you. How do I do this? I forget to do this. Share screen. Tabs. There we go. Share. So hopefully, oh no, I've done. So let's bring that up. Sorry, I hate doing this while talking at the same time, but for this I need to. So we'll go to this one because that shows you what it is. This is the plant from Sarah Raisin. I'll get rid of that. This is the plant and what it looks like when it's growing. It's a difficult, almost like a fern-like, isn't it? But it grows in brackish water. Because of that, it's quite salty, and for that reason, it needs salt water. Hopefully, you've seen that all, and that's given you enough of an idea of. Oh, hang on, it didn't even come up, did it? Sorry, it didn't even come up. So let me try that again. I'm sorry. Stop screen, present, share screen. That one. Share. Oh, bugger off and bugger off. Don't you hate pop-ups sometimes? And now we want to go to that. There we go. That gives you a better idea of what we're looking at now, doesn't it? So which one is it? That one. I'll zoom in. As I say, it's a bit like a fern-like plant that grows in river estuaries out to sea. So it gets salty, it's submerged for part of the time, and then it drains off the rest of the time. Does that give you all an idea of what we are looking at? Let's have a quick scroll down. Yeah. You get the idea. You get the idea of what it is. It's nice. I quite like it, but it is an acquired taste. But a lot of people don't like it. And it can be grown, clearly, but you need to water it with salt water. Gary says, well, olives. Rob says, well done, Steve. Digwell says they were grown in hydroponics, talking about the hydroponics and tomatoes because together. Stuart Jackson has given Steve a round of applause, and Digwell says, thank you. Turbostream, yes, well done, Digwell. Saw your vid earlier, forgot to comment. A multi-prize winning gardener. Indeed. Roxy asking when you'll show his photos. She was on the mission earlier. She made an appearance in that. Samphire, fleshy leaves. Yes, samphire, fleshy leaves. That's it. Too much sodium cyanide in the Midlands canals. You tend to eat samphire with fish. You do, actually. Or lamb it goes quite well with as well, I believe. Just Googled it. Samphire looks like horsetail. That's it. That's the way to describe it. Yeah, looks like horsetail. Yeah. A lot is grown in Norfolk. Yeah, because I think much of Norfolk was marshland, wasn't it? Originally, until they put some drainage in. So that would explain why samphire is growing there. Hargrave Gas says, I love samphire, but never tried to grow it. I've tried, it's not easy. You've got to remember it needs salt water when you water it. So, it can be done. It can be done. Turbo Stream says, the canals are smelly at the best of times, Digwell. Never mind adding cyanide. There we go. Talking about the canals there. It's also known as sea asparagus and tastes a little like salty baby asparagus to my taste. I love the stuff. I hope to find some tomorrow on the Norfolk coast. Yeah, it's lovely. It is. I like it, but it is an acquired taste. It's like a succulent, but very tiny. Indeed, it is. Yeah. Succulent, asparagus, and what was the other thing I was thinking of? Horsetail. Lots of samphire in Northumberland close. Good in a stir fry. There we go. So a lot of us actually have this growing locally, don't we? If you're near a coast anyway, and you know what you're looking for, go and try it. You can Waitrose also sell it. Very expensive, but if you want to try it out, it's worth going there. 1 teaspoon of salt per litre of water to water samphire. Grow it in a pot, and you've got to be careful that the salt water, when you water it, the salt water will run through, but because there's salt in it, it could actually kill off anything else you have growing where that water might go. So if you have it on grass or something, it might kill the grass off as well, just to add another element to it. I would be inclined to grow it in a pot, but try and collect the runoff in a bucket below it so you can reuse it or something. But I think it would probably end up needing a lot of water as well, based on how it grows. Love the beaches in Northumberland, and had a few happy campervan trips to Beadnall Bay. Oh, I've never been. Have I been to Northumberland? No, I haven't. That's one we need to go to. Can't afford to walk through Waitrose doors. It is like that, isn't it? It is like that. But it's the only place I can think of that actually sells samphire that I can think of. I could be wrong. Grow your own, Scott, like on the Sarah Raven pick. There you go. Give it a try. We grow shopping trolleys and cars and canals. We grow shopping trolleys and cars in the canals in Birmingham. Yeah, the same in some of the lakes and rivers around here, funnily enough. Right, we are coming up to the end. We've got about 8 minutes to go for this show. Has anybody got anything they want to add to growing edibles in ponds or anything like that, or hydroponics, or anything you want to add? Hopefully, we're going to get a few videos for next week on this subject. Now, as I said, next week I want to talk about AI and gardening and how could we use AI to enhance or help us in the garden. This is a sore subject because I'm not a fan of AI, but I'm well aware that AI is becoming quite prominent, and we need to. I've always believed we need to keep ourselves up with the latest technology. So AI becoming more and more prevalent is something we need to think about. Let's see, and nothing over on Instagram. So that's what I want to talk about next week. I need a mission for next week and a sew along or a cook along for next week. I'm not on call next week, so I got a bit of time as well. Scott says, good idea. Might add other seed vegetables. Maybe a challenge for Richard. Create a seed vegetable planter / plot. Is it going to be the right time to do that? Is it going to be the right time to do that? That's a question I would have to ask. When can we sow those seeds? I'll have a quick look, shall I? Excuse me. When do we sow? Marsh Samphire, we can only sow March, April, May. Undercover or direct sow in May. And then harvest May, June, July, it says. So may not work for next week. May not work for next week. But I can make a list of seed vegetables. Digwell says cook along preferred for me. I'm happy. I'm happy to do whatever you want to do. I will admit I was getting a bit bored with sew alongs, but a cook along could. But this is a gardening show. Got to remember it is a gardening vegetable show. But if you want to do a cook along, suggest something I can cook. It's got to be something that we grow in our garden, something vegetable related, obviously. Could include eggs as well as for that. In season and so on with things like that. Rob says stuffed peppers. We could do stuffed peppers. That's definitely an option. It's up to you guys. Add a challenge. More importantly, the challenge. Digwell says, was going to say that samphire picked on the coast this time of year may be a bit woody. Yeah, I was going to say the same sort of thing, but you never know, do you? Cook with samphire or veg grown in water. Cook along with samphire. Can you forage edibles from the seaside at this time of year? Sea kale you could probably do and things like that. But other than that, I don't know. Bedo says cook bacon and eggs. Do a foraging videos, forage your samphire. Would that be the mission though? Would that be the challenge to forage some samphire? Stuffed peppers, good idea. So I can do stuffed peppers for the cook along. That's fine. Do you want me to go and find some samphire? As I said, I'd forage some and try and see how well it tastes. Would that be the mission? Would that be a mission? What do you think? What do you think? Because that'll be the entire of next week's show worked out. Littlehampton lava bread with samphire. I've done the lava bread. Thank you very much. Whatever it was, using what do you call it? Seaweed. Samphire is normally good this time of year. Just pick the tops. Yeah. We'll give it a try, won't we? Nigel says create a meal from foraged items. Okay. That's a good idea. Yeah. What have we got? Or something interesting with courgettes. I haven't got any. I have not had a single courgette this year. Not a single one. I'm not happy. I planted quite a few plants, not a single one. After the comment a few weeks ago about using pea and human waste compost, I'll be surprised if anyone eats things picked up on the coast. The trouble with, and I know where you're going with this, it's not just pea and human waste, is it, that goes down the toilet? It's all the bleaches and things like that that also go down there. And I believe, and Digwell will probably be able to tell us better than this, it's also treated in the waterworks. But that's what worries me more than anything these days. Going to say night, also says Nicola, got to get the old dementia boy cat in as raining and he doesn't find his way home. You take care, Nicola. Look after that cat. Rob says, my wife has been making courgette cakes and they are yummy. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Not a single courgette. Not a single courgette. I'm letting my courgettes grow into marrows now for winter storage. Love to be able to do that. Not a single courgette at all. And I grew loads of plants. A lot of them got eaten by slugs and snails. That's another thing. Another subject. Very sore subject for this year, isn't it? Slugs and snails, massive problem. Right. Well, I think we've actually figured it out for next week. So we're going to forage for some food, and we're going to do stuffed peppers as well. And we're going to be talking about AI and AI gardening. I've got a few ideas how we're going to do that. May not be the most interesting subject, but it's definitely something that's becoming very, very apparent. Sewage treatment is totally natural. No chemicals or organic to the core. Natural bacteria break the waste down. That's what I like to hear. That's even better. I know they've been using human waste on farmers' fields and things like that. So there's obviously something going on. I got courgettes whilst I was away. Slugs have nibbled through most. Lettuce all gone to seed, and tomatoes are forest in the greenhouse. Holidays and gardening don't mix. Do what I do. Go on holiday in winter. The garden doesn't need so much care then. Toasting, well done, Richard, and have a great week, everyone. The chemicals are used to treat drinking water. There we go. There we go. You can Digwell. You do point out the bleeding obvious to us sometimes, so thank you for that. Yeah, chemicals, chlorine and stuff in the drinking water. Stuart, I would like to thank everyone for another great live show again this week. See you all next Sunday. Indeed, yeah. Good. EnviroCycle, human waste supply to the farms. Yeah, I heard that is becoming more of a thing. Rob says, right, folks, another great live. Thank you all. Thank you so much to everybody for joining us this week. It has been really good to actually conversation. I hope some of you are going to go away and think about putting in a pond and growing edibles in your pond, be it water, what did we say? Watercress, water mint, water chestnuts, wasabi, and all those sort of things. Lots of options there anyway. And of course, hydroponics. Right, guys, you take care. We will be back again next Sunday. Don't forget to like on your way out, as Digwell has just done. We will be back next Sunday at 6, where we're going to be talking about AI and the garden. Right, guys, take care. Speak to you again next time. Bye-bye.